All right, guys, check this out. So today I'm going to be on the Rally, and what I'm currently doing is a little bit of testing between the XT and then the Rally. They're both very, very similar. Obviously, we have a little bit more highway capability here, and here we've got a little bit lower seat height, a lot lighter, and a little bit more capable off-road. So I've been doing a lot of the same rides with both bikes just to get a feel for which one I'm going to keep long-term. So yeah, we'll be on the Rally today. I've also packed the drone. Hopefully we're going to get some cool shots as well. But I also wanted to show you how I stay warm in the winter. It's currently middle of January here in New Mexico, and we are pretty high up here in the Albuquerque area. So we do get a little bit of snow and definitely a lot of cold. So when I'm doing rides like this, I'm actually a big fan of carrying a freezer jacket with me. And the reason this works so well is I buy one that is one size larger than I normally need so I can put it over my riding jacket. And the freezer jackets specifically obviously are designed for those who work in walk-in freezers. And so they work really well for keeping your heat in, your insulation. And another thing that I'm testing out that's actually been really nice so far is some heated gear. Now, this is the Hot Wired brand from Cycle Gear, and so far it's not been bad. I'll put out a full review of that coming up soon here, but that does help as well. I've never paired the two together because the heated gear on its own does work well enough, and then the freezer jacket method actually on its own works well enough. And I've ridden fairly comfortably down to about 18, 19 degrees. Now, any lower than that, and it starts to get uncomfortable with either of those methods. I'm also testing out some boots from Fox Racing. They've been pretty good so far. So I'll put out a link for those in the description, and I'll put out a full review of those soon. But for now, let's get on the bike and let's get out there. All right, guys, so like I said, I've been comparing this 300L Rally to the Yamaha XT 250, and I know it's not a direct comparison. But I mean, in the grand scheme of motorcycling, those are two pretty darn similar motorcycles, and I've got to decide which one I'm going to keep here in the future. So they are both absolutely amazing, and if only one existed and not the other, I'd be perfectly fine with either. But because we're in this world where both exist, I have to make a decision, and we are currently weighing the pros of this extra 50 cc's liquid cooled engine compared with that Yamaha, which is air cooled and 250 cc. So I can get up to those highway speeds on this bike, not comfortably, but on the XT it was definitely less comfortably. In fact, in most situations I could probably only do about 65 or so. So yeah, but then we have this bike here with the much taller seat height. Still pretty manageable though, but the XT 250 has got like a 30-inch seat height, maybe 31-inch. So you can paddle through anything. And today's adventure is actually going to be perfect because there's quite a bit of whoops and like areas where the road is really rutted out where you might not be able to get your foot down. So that's going to tell me how comfortable I'm going to feel. But I just want to kind of show you guys around the bike real quick in its current state. So I've got the GoPro mount up here. I have a quad lock that I move between the XT 250 and this one, but I think I'm going to probably end up getting a second one just because I like having them on all the bikes. We've got the Bark Busters, of course, with the larger Storm handguards for wind reasons. We've got the Tusk Olympus bags. And of course we have our drone on the top here. I'm experimenting with this setup. It works on the Africa Twin, but on this bike it's a little bit tight. And then of course we've just got the Harbor Freight toolbox. Now I realize this is a lot of stuff and luggage for my bike, especially for a day trip, but I tend to overpack a little bit, and I know that, and I'm working on it. But for now, this is the setup. And I run this setup on the Africa Twin and a very similar setup on the XT 250, and all the bikes can handle it. And I'm not a little guy either, 5'11", about 200 pounds. So I do like it so far. This is the only thing I'm not convinced of. I think for a drone setup, I think I can condense everything and get it in here. But that's for another day. For now, let's continue onward. But we still have a few minutes till we get to the site, so I always like to tell people a little bit about where I live, because I find it fascinating when people talk about where they live. So like I said, I'm in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and actually I just live outside of it in a suburb. It's a different city, but it's a suburb essentially of Albuquerque. It's called Rio Rancho, and the thing I really like about this area is that there is a lot of undiscovered land to ride around. There's a lot of BLM land. For those of you who don't live in the southwest area of the United States, BLM is Bureau of Land Management, and so there's a lot of open land that you're allowed to just drive through and camp on, and it's something that doesn't really exist in too many other states. I mean, you know, out west there's a good amount, but certainly out east there's not as much. It's different from forest land, you know. So we have a lot of that. But I also do want to mention that with that comes some activities that are less than desirable. People do dump on BLM lands on occasion, especially in areas that are somewhat accessible to a major city. So unfortunately that is something that does happen. When we get to this area up ahead, it's actually on state trust land, which I understand is a little bit different, but essentially the same idea. You're going to see a little bit of dumping. So it's unfortunate. It does happen. It does not happen that much in a lot of the different BLM lands and state lands that we have, but it is an unfortunate side effect. But nonetheless, there's a lot of that here. So we have a lot of BLM land out in this area. We're also located in what's called the high desert. So many people not outside the southwestern United States think of areas, they hear New Mexico or Texas, and they kind of lump it together in their mind, which I totally understand. I'm guilty of the same thing with other areas. But what the high desert is it differs in that if you think of Phoenix, you know, it gets really hot there. That's because it's lower in elevation compared to where we're at. High desert has a totally different sort of look and feel to it. So we're not able to grow any plants that are like tropical, like palm trees or anything like that. Nor do we have the saguaro cactus like they do in parts of Arizona. High desert area is a lot of scenery like you're seeing now. So we get the cholla cactus, which are these little ones around here, and those things will stick you if you are not careful as you're riding around in the desert. We have a lot of sagebrush out here, and a lot of pinon. So occasionally you'll see those big, larger green bush looking trees out in the distance. Those are pinon, and those grow natively in this area. But yeah, the higher elevation means we don't get as hot in the summer. I mean, it does still get warm, don't get me wrong, but in comparison to desert like Phoenix area. So from what I understand, there's also parts of Utah that are high desert as well. And so there's a moto vlogger out there that I follow who, some of his videos, I thought he was in New Mexico for a while. But so yeah, this is the high desert. It looks like that. This area around Santa Fe, New Mexico, is extremely diverse. There's a lot more to it than what you're seeing just now. There's a lot of mountainous areas, very, very dense forests, especially up north as we border Colorado. So there's really a lot to it. And that's one of my favorite things about living here, is that we can explore all those, and a lot of those areas are open for exploration. So I view New Mexico as a little bit of a gold mine, kind of undiscovered gold mine for motorcycling, especially a mix of on and off-road motorcycling. I think that it's something you should definitely put on your radar if you can. Massive field of cholla cactus right out here. There's another thing on the bike I wanted to show you guys. So a minute ago I talked about that Harbor Freight toolbox. It's called an Apache case that I mount on my bikes. I really like this setup. It's nice because it's a good halfway point between cost, it still can lock if you just get some padlocks, some security, and functionality. And I like to offset it back so that I have room here, of course, for a drone or maybe for a dry bag when I'm camping for my gear. And I did this on my Africa Twin, and it works extremely well. But the seat's a little bit longer on that bike, and so I was able to offset it back a little bit to leave this space open, but I'm not convinced that it's the best idea on this bike. It's currently attached with 2 rails that I put in underneath, so hopefully you guys can see that. And it feels pretty strong, and I drilled into those rails, put some bolts in, and it's been holding up. I've been doing a bunch of off-road riding like this to test it. It's been okay so far, but long term, we'll see what happens if these get loose or if it starts to bend downward. That would be something I'd be concerned about, is those rails that hold it bending downward. But so far, so good. My plan B with this, if it doesn't work out, is I actually am part of the Milk Crate KLR gang. So back in the day, I did have a KLR and loved that bike. I wasn't quite ready for its weight when I first got it, but I did the Milk Crate thing on it because that's what you do when you get a KLR. But honestly, that was one of the best top cases I ever owned. Now, a big reason for that was because the Milk Crate itself is a little bit of a taller design, but because it has holes through it, it's pretty light. So not only is it pretty flexible in storage, but it's easy to secure and remove. It lets wind blow through. Yeah, it's not going to keep things waterproof, that's for sure, but you can always put a bag around things that do need to be waterproof. But it just offers you a lot of flexibility. And on top of that, it has an open top, and that's huge because when I'm moto camping, I love to have a fire, and I don't know of a great way to transport logs. I don't like putting them in my bags. And so with the openness of that, I could get to the campsite, set up, and then from there, throw a couple logs in the Milk Crate and take them back to the camp. And I have a bungee strap for that, a little net. So actually pretty effective for that. All right, check it out. This is the view. Flying the drone just now was super sketch. Hope you enjoyed that. So here is that area I was talking about. Flip the camera around here, and absolutely gorgeous views. But like I said, there's the dumping. There's some cars down there, and it's unfortunate. It happens, but yeah, it's really unfortunate. I also think there might be a trailer down there, but there's at least 2 cars. No, there's 3. There's 3 cars. Maybe 4, but at least 3. Anyway, the area we're going to explore is off this way, and it's nice because the road actually follows this rim around. It goes around this whole area here, and I haven't explored out that way either, so we'll see how far we can get, but this is where the road gets really fun. Keep this party going. See some whoops. I always love hitting those. Those are so fun. Like I said, amazing road. So we are going along the rim right now. It's off to my right. Every so often there's little pull-offs where we can stop and drive in and go see it. Go see the little canyon, the little ravine, whatever it's called. In fact, here's one now. Now this land, I was looking at Onyx Off-Road, this land, as soon as you get into this ravine here, this is Ceja, the Ceja people. It's their land. So, but the land I'm on now is state trust, so we're good. Do a turn around. So little turnarounds like this, you go up the hill and back up. That's a lot easier on the XT, but Not that it's impossible on this bike. Oh shoot, I just ran over the barbed wire. Hopefully I didn't pop my tires. Guess we'll find out. Alright, onward. So I have a question for you guys. I always am confused about how much electricity little bikes like this put out. I know it's not much. And from my understanding, the headlight type might affect it. Like this one has an LED, I believe. But, you know, things like that. I want to charge, I charge things off the bike, like my phone and the GoPro batteries. But my question is, I guess those types of things must have minimal effect. Is that correct? And then the other thing is, with this heated gear that I'm running, you know, do I look at volts or amps? And how can I determine if it will run the heated gear? Like the Africa Twin, I know it does perfectly fine, no issues. With this bike, I would question it. Like it does the jacket just fine. But with the gloves and then also like everything else, how many things can I charge? I don't know. So if you have any insight on that, how to figure that out, where to look in the manual, what specs to look up, specifically the volts versus like amp stuff, like I don't understand that. So yeah, any guidance you can provide is appreciated. So this area is what I really wanted to test on this bike. You have to be careful when you're riding out here. These cholla cactuses, they will stick you and they will go through armor. The spikes on it are pretty long. Of course, the suspension on this 300L Rally is somewhat infamous, if you haven't heard by now. It is very soft, and I do bottom out on it on occasion. But with my riding, I'm pretty easygoing, so it's not happening a lot, and I have a feeling that it's not something I need to put too much stock in for the type of riding I'm doing. If I was hitting more aggressive trails at a faster speed, then sure, yeah, start looking into that. But currently it's been fine. I know that I do load it up quite a bit with the luggage and all that. Drop into this one here. I know that I do load it up quite a bit though with the luggage plus my weight, so I should probably consider at least changing springs. But I will say though, as someone who's a casual off-roader, the stock suspension is alright. As I've said in my previous videos, I do think that my comfortableness with the stock suspension does speak to my inexperience with off-road machines in general. Oh, this bike just handles everything with ease. That's what I love about it. You can just tractor up things and not have to worry about it. But the XT250 does that as well. They both can handle that. Man, my top case and my drone are probably flopping around back there, but I can still see them in the rear view, so we're good. It's a fun trail. While we're talking positive, the other thing about having a super soft suspension like this is the taller seat height somewhat becomes a moot point because when you sit on it, it just sinks down. We'll check our luggage here at the top of this hill. Let's see what we're looking like. Let's see. How are we doing back there? Stuff pretty solid. Solid as well. All right, we're good. Back on the fun road. Yeah, this rally can do it. I mean, obviously it can. That's not really the question. The question is, can the rider do it? And that is what I'm trying to figure out. Where's my comfort level? Obviously this bike leaves a little bit more to grow into, but there is a great deal of comfort and security being on the XT and just knowing that whatever I point it at, I can get over and through, and whatever I get it into, I can get it out of, no problem. So I have to grapple with that a little bit. But this is about as aggressive as anything I would really want to ride on in the first place. Pretty soon I'm going to turn around. Hate to do it, but there's still so much to explore out in this area. But I'm kind of excited to edit this video, trying out some new settings. If you're interested, I'm filming on the GoPro 11 today, and I have a 12, and I'm hesitant to move up to the 13 because I've been hearing that they changed the battery, so you can't really reuse your batteries. And then for a lot of the vlogging style, talking head stuff, that's the Osmo Pocket 3. Love that camera. It has been incredibly versatile. It's on a gimbal, and it's literally will fit in your pocket. Great quality, does pretty well in low light for something with a small sensor. So I'll put a link to that in the description if you want to check it out, but I use that one a lot. And of course, the drone is the DJI Avata, and that one has been so far my favorite drone. If I had to pick one, it would be that. The thing I like about it is that you can get such smooth footage, and then in sport mode it's pretty darn fast. So as I head back here, all winter, like I said, I've been trying to decide if I want to keep the XT or the Rally long term, and I've been flip-flopping a lot. And to be honest, I actually kind of landed on the XT recently for a few different reasons, mainly just related to how confident I feel and how confidence expiring it is. However, I think today has changed my mind again, and that's kind of what I do when I'm thinking about motorcycles in the garage and which one's best. I really like to pay attention to where I lean over a longer period of time, because I am pretty indecisive by nature. But I'll tell you more about that in a sec. First, let's get home. Hey, so we're back. So my thoughts have changed a little bit on this bike. Now, everything I'm about to say is in comparison to the XT, of course. But yeah, I previously was concerned that it was a little bit top heavy in comparison. But, I didn't really feel that as much this time. And I felt pretty confident going through all that terrain I was on just now. And I realized that is by no means very difficult terrain compared to what some of you guys ride. But for me, a casual off-road rider, I think that's about the maximum type of terrain I would ever attempt in terms of deepest sand and whoops and hills and stuff like that. And this bike did fine. And I felt there was a couple times where I was just about to lose control, but I was able to keep it up and put my foot down and really save it. So I guess I'm not as worried as I used to be about all that stuff that the XT previously had the advantage over. So the other thing was with the highway speed, this really doesn't offer all that much top speed on the highway compared to the XT. That 50 cc's doesn't make as much difference as you might think. Where you really notice it though is where you have a headwind, and just having that extra 50 cc's is notable. In the XT, when you have a headwind, you are definitely going to notice a decrease in the speed overall. Also hills, the Rally is able to maintain its speed a little bit better on that. So with that, I would just like to wrap it up with this. My big takeaway from today is I love big bikes like this and different riding styles, but little bikes like this are always going to be a whole lot more fun. If you liked the video, please consider subscribing and let me know what your thoughts are on this bike. The new Himalayan 450 has a lot to offer, and so I've been kind of considering and comparing it against that. So I don't know, curious what your guys' thoughts are. Thank you, and we'll catch you in the next one.